All right. So to solve a multi-step equation, that just means more than one step, simplify each side of the equation if necessary, then use the inverse operations to isolate the variable. So what that means is you're going to look on each side and say, do I have any like terms that I can put together? Okay? And then you're going to do your order of operations backwards. So what I mean by that, order of operations is parentheses, exponents, multiplication, division, addition, subtraction, correct? When you solve for a variable, it's backwards. SADMIP. All right? Because when you do the order of operations, you're putting something together, right? So if I solve for a variable, I am actually taking something apart. So you got to go backwards. So if you're looking at this, this is what I mean. Here's the variable I want to solve for. So I look on this side and I see, okay, I'm multiplying by 2.5 and I am subtracting 13. So if I'm going to go backwards, the first thing I have to undo is the subtraction. So to undo the subtracting 13, I would add 13. And what I do to one side of the equal sign, I have to do to the other. So the negative 13 and the positive 13 are going to cancel. And on this side, I am now left with 2.5 times x equals, and then on this side, 13 and 2 make 15. So now I have undone the subtraction. Now I have to undo the multiplication by dividing. And make sure that when you undo multiplication and division, you don't change the sign. Okay, that was a big problem in the last lesson. You only change the sign when you're doing addition and subtraction. If you're dividing, use the number that's up there. So those two cancel, and x is equal to 15 divided by 2.5, which is 6. And then if I wanted to check myself, all I have to do is say 2.5 times 6 minus 13 and see if that is equal to 2. Okay. So on number 2, here's the variable I want to solve for. I notice that I am taking that variable and multiplying by the 1.5, and I am adding 3 to it. You always think about what you're doing to the variable, all right? So according to this, I would have to undo the addition before I undid the multiplication. So I'm going to go ahead and subtract the 3. 15 minus 3 is 12. The 3's over here cancel out, leaving me with the 1.5 times r. So since I am multiplying, I'm going to have to divide to get rid of the 1.5. So I divide by the 1.5. All right, and I get 12 divided by 1.5 is 8. But I don't want my variable to be on the right, so I'm going to move it to the left and move the 8 to the right-hand side. All right. So on the last ones, there was nothing on either side that needed to be simplified. But if you look on this side of the equal sign, I have a 9x and a negative 6x. So I need to combine those like terms, okay? So anything that has the same variable at the back with the same power, or two numbers that don't have a variable at all, we need to put those together. Here's the thing. Make sure you're paying attention to me. A lot of people want to do this. That's incorrect. That's incorrect because I don't do the opposite of something unless I'm trying to move it to the other side. These are on the same side. Therefore, I'm just going to put them together. So when I put together 9 and a negative 6, that gives me 3x. So you don't do the opposite sign of addition and subtraction unless you are going to move it to the other side. These are on the same side of the equal sign, so just put them together. So now I've combined all my like terms over here. I've combined all my like terms over here. There's nothing left to simplify. So I look at my x and I see that I am multiplying by 3 and I'm adding 15. So the first thing I have to undo would be adding 15. So I will subtract. So these will cancel over here. On this side of the equal sign, a negative 12 and a negative 15 will make a negative 27. Then I have my equal sign, and then I have this 3x left. Now I can undo the 3 times the x by dividing by 3. So I get negative 27 divided by 3 is negative 9. And over here, all I have left is an x. But I don't want the x on the right, so I'm going to put it on the left, and I'll put the negative 9 on the right side. And I'm done. So if you look at number 4, on this side, we have like terms of 5f and 4f. They are on the same side, so we're just going to put them together. 5f and 4f make 9f. Then you have your minus 8 is equal to 19. Now that I've got this side fully simplified and this side fully simplified, I can start solving for the f. So I notice I'm multiplying by 9 and I'm subtracting 8. So I'll undo the subtracting 8 by adding 8. So now I have 9f left over here, and 19 plus 8 is 27. Then to undo the multiplying by 9, I will divide by 9 on both sides. My 9's cancel, and f is 3. All right. So if you look at number 5, over here on the left-hand side, I have two values that have an x, a negative 10 and a negative 2. So if I put those together, I get negative 12x. Then I still have a plus 12 equals 18. Now I can solve. So I look at the x, I notice I am multiplying it by negative 12, and I'm also adding 12 to it. So I'll undo the adding first. So I will subtract. Over here they cancel, and I get negative 12x equals 18 minus 12, which gives me 6. Now I'll undo the multiplying by negative 12 by dividing by negative 12. I'm not changing the sign because I want the negative to go away as well. So negative 12 divided by negative 12 is 1, so that's just x equals 6 divided by negative 12 is negative 1/2. So on number 6, I see on this side that I have a parenthesis that's being multiplied by a 2. So the first thing I want to do is go ahead and distribute. So I take the 2 and I multiply it times the 1. 2 times 1 is 2. And then I take the 2 and I multiply it times a negative 1x. 2 times a negative 1x is negative 2x. I don't take the 2 times the 3 because the 3 is not in the parentheses. All right? So I've just got plus 3 equals negative 8. All right. So then I'm going to look and see if I have any like terms, and I do. I have a 2 and a 3 to put together because they're on the same side. 3 and 2 make 5. And then you have your minus 2x equals negative 8. So now that you've combined all your like terms, now you can solve for your x. So x is being multiplied by negative 2, and I'm also adding 5. Okay? It's in a weird spot. You almost want to say you're subtracting 5, but you're not. 5 is positive. So I'm going to get rid of that first by subtracting 5. So over here they cancel. I have negative 2x is equal to negative 8 and negative 5, which make negative 13. And then I'm going to divide by the negative 2. And sometimes, let's face it, we don't know if that's going to reduce or not. 13 is a prime number, so it's also odd. It's not going to divide by 2. So it won't reduce anymore, but I do know that a negative divided by a negative comes out to be positive. But if you're unsure, then just grab your calculator and put in negative 13 over negative 2, and it will reduce it for you and simplify it and all that, so it comes out to be 13 over 2. All right, so same thing here. I'm going to have to simplify this side. I see that I have some parentheses with a number being multiplied, so I'm going to distribute that. 4 times 1n is 4n, and 4 times negative 6 is negative 24. Then I still have my minus 1 equals 31. So I'm going to look and see if I've got some like terms on one side that I should put together. So I look over here and I have a negative 24 and a negative 1. All right, so I'm going to keep my 4 in. And when I put together negative 24 minus 1, I get negative 25. And then I have my 31. So now I'm ready to solve for n again. I see that n is being multiplied by 4 and that I am subtracting 25. So I'll undo the subtraction first by adding. So over here those cancel, and I have 4n left on this left side equals 31 plus 25, which gives me 56. Now all I have to do is undo the multiplying by dividing. So I'll divide by 4. 56 divided by 4 is 14. Number 8 is a little bit different because I have 2 sets of parentheses. So I'm going to have to distribute twice. So I'm going to take the 5 and distribute to the 3. 5 times 3 gives me 15. And then 5 times a negative 1x is negative 5x. Then I have a positive 2 times 3 gives me a positive 6. And a positive 2 times a negative 1x is negative 2x. And that's equal to 14. So I'm going to look over here on this side. I have 4 separate terms. So I'm going to look at these and say, okay, what do I have that's a like term? Well, I know I can put together the negative 5x and the negative 2x. When I add those, I get negative 7x. And if you like to cross out so that you know you've already taken care of those, that's fine. Then you have 15 and a positive 6. When I add those together, I get 21. So I've taken care of everything on this side, and I have equals 14. So I look here and I notice that my x is right here. It's being multiplied by -7, and I'm adding 21 to it. So first I'm going to take care of undoing the adding by subtracting 21. These will cancel, and I have -7x is equal to 14 minus 21, which is -7. Then all I have to do to undo the multiplying by -7 right here is divide by -7. Remember, you keep the sign the same. And anything divided by itself is 1. All right, so I look here on number 9. I've got parentheses, so I'm going to have to go ahead and distribute. -4 times 2m is -8m. And just to reiterate, just in case we forgot how to do that, you just multiply the number and the number in front. And then if this had a variable, you would multiply it and that variable, but you don't have one, so this just stays an m. And then -4 times +5 is -20. Then you have -3m equals 35. So I look on this side and I see that I have a -8m and a -3m. So I'm going to put those together. -8 plus a -3 is -11m. Then you still have your -20 equals 35. So now you are ready to solve for m. I notice that I'm multiplying m by -11 and I'm subtracting 20. So I'm going to start by adding 20. All right, those cancel, and I have -11m equals 55. I'm going to undo the multiplying by dividing, keep the sign the same. So the -11's cancel, and m is equal to 55 divided by -11, which is -5. All right, so I look over here, I see that I have parentheses, so before I can move anything, I need to go ahead and distribute. So I'm going to keep the 15, and I'm going to keep the 5. I'm going to take this +4 times 2d, and that gives me +8d. And then 4 times -3 gives me -12. All right, before I start solving, I've got to make sure I don't have anything to put together. I can actually combine 5 and -12. So I keep the 15. 5 and -12 make -7. And then I still have my +8d. So I'm multiplying this d by 8, and I am adding a -7 to this 8d. So I'm going to take care of that first by adding 7. So my 7's over here cancel. 15 plus 7 is 22. And then I still have my 8d. All right. So now to take care of the multiplying, I'm going to go ahead and divide by 8. 22 does not divide by 8, but it does reduce to 11 over 4. And if you actually put that in your calculator, remember it does it for you. So if I do 22 over 8, I get 11 over 4. But I don't want my variable to be on the right, so I'm going to move it to the left. And I'm done. Okay, so we're going to use the table to find the number of miles, X. That's the number of miles you need to bike on Friday so that the mean, what does mean mean? Which is called the average. All right? So that the average number of miles biked per day is 5. So you guys just told me that to find the average of something, you add it all up and divide by how many there are, correct? So this is a perfect example of an ACT question, okay? Only they don't usually ask you, they don't usually put it in a table like this. They'll just kind of list it all out. So when you want to know, they usually do like test grades. You know, John has a, test average of an 89, and he's had 6 tests. If he wants his average to be, a 91, what does he have to make on the last test? That's kind of like how they word that. So it's the same kind of problem. So if I want to know how much he has to bike on this day so that the average is 5, that means I will add up the 3.5, the 5.5. I'm going to put the 0 up here even though adding 0 does nothing. Plus 5 plus X. And I have to divide that by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, correct? And I want the outcome to be 5 per day, right? All right, so on top I have a bunch of like terms, correct? So I'm going to add those together. 3.5 plus 5.5 plus 5 plus the 0 gives me 14. So on top I have 14. So I just put this one, this one, this one, and this one together. And then I still have my plus X divided by 5 equals 5. All right, so I'm still trying to solve for this X, right? Now, when you have more than one thing in a top, that's like saying that this is a group. So when you think about SADMIP, which sounds sad, all right, the very last thing you're supposed to undo is your parentheses, correct? So if you think about it, they didn't have parentheses around that. But you can think about this instead of thinking it as a P, think about groups, okay? A group of numbers. So anything that's all together in the numerator or the denominator is a group. So if I want to get access to the X, the first thing I have to undo is dividing by 5. So how do I undo dividing by 5? I'm going to multiply by 5 on both sides. That way this cancels, and now all I have left is the group of numbers that was in the top. So 5 times 5 gives me 25, and then the last thing I have to do is subtract the 14. So X would equal 25 minus 14, which is 11. So in order for his average to be 5 miles a day on Friday, he's going to have to bike 11 miles. So our answer would be 11 miles. We always have a unit of measure. All right. So keep that in mind for those ACT questions that ask you about the test scores. Add them all up, divide by how many test scores there are, set it equal to what you want your average to be. All right, your school's drama club charges $4 per person for admission to a play. The club borrowed $400 to pay for costumes and props. After paying back that loan, the club has a profit of $100. How many people attended the play? So this is what you're trying to find, right? How many people were there? So let's give that a letter. Let's say that's P. So we're going to write this equation as we go. It says your school's drama club charges $4 per person. So that would be $4 times P, $4 for every person. All right. Then they borrowed $400 and they had to pay that back. So whatever they make here, they're going to have to take away $400. And after they did that, then they profited $100. So that's all they made. $4 a person minus their loan, that's how much they made, which is pretty lame, but I'm not going to judge. All right, so to figure out how many people came, we need to solve for P. So the first thing I do is add the 400. So I have 4P equals 500. All right, then I'm going to divide by the 4. So the number of people that came was 125. So we would say 125 people. So 125 people came and they only made $100. I think that maybe they should have just charged a little more.